remixed, reloaded, re-edited.
Sometimes we get so deep into conversation that we have separate segments worthy of their own place in the sun.
Here is a reshuffled mini episode.
Goes back, with most things, you have, the underdog fighting against,
his own people, and
David versus Goliath. In the show, the envoys are, and Takashi, they're the David, while the first families and the protectorate are, Goliath. They are these big entities that are crushing the lower people, people in the lower classes.
right.
The
show has them more as kind of a death squad almost, where they're like, we're willing to die, for this cause.
Yeah, but the envoys are, again, they're special in the books. They're special for it. They're the people you send in to just take. And anytime the subtle world has an issue or something, they're sent in. They take everybody out. And the same thing, like in the show, Eminem with the Rollins virus. Same thing happens in the book, and that's the same. They trigger the Pretorius. They trigger the Rollins virus, or they either trigger or they don't warn the envoys that's about to happen. And
True.
Kovac, just like in the show, what was it, Jimmy Soto, he dies in the book, he dies in Kovac's arms as he's ripping his own eyes out from the Rollins virus. And that is his motivation to lead the envoys. Now, in the books, like it's described, even in the the envoys terrorists in the terrorist group in the show, but in the book, when you're recruited to join the envoys, if you leave, you're not allowed to hold a government or corporate position, because envoys, they're so good at manipulation and using things to their advantage from their.
You're on a leash now, basically, stripped of privileges. Yep.
There's also another way to keep you in the envoy corps. So he goes to crime, and that's like we see in the first episode of the first season. He's caught and put on ice for a couple of decades. Now the other change. There's actually quite a few changes, even small, subtle changes that kind of like, wow, if they hadn't have done that, they could have went with this story. Because my favorite book is actually book 2, Broken Angels.
It was way more risque.
Yeah,
it was way more detailed. The first one was kind of slow build up.
The first book, just like it is, even though it's in the future, it's a 1920s noir detective story.
Oh, it is. That is the pulpiest of all of them. And so, for those who don't know, yes, the first book is Altered Carbon. The second one is Broken Angels, and the third one has Woken Furies, which has a Yakuza backdrop.
So season 2, Altered Carbon, is literally they skip the plot.
They're combining them.
They skip the plot for book 2. They went mainly with the plot for book 3.
Book 2 is pretty much, they're like, we're just going to have them think that all the time, but not necessarily quote any scenes in book 2.
A few things they did take from book 2 was, one, Takashi in book 2, he is in a black sleeve, just like Anthony Mackie.
That's right, yeah.
Sleeve has gene slice with wolf DNA. That's something they took from book 2 and added in to 2. Besides that, the whole plot, they skipped the whole Sanction 4 Martian spaceship plot. What I love about the books is, like, again, the first book is this Norse 1920s style story set in the future. Book 2 is a straight up war zone.
I'm glad you put a lot of this more in perspective, because, like, how there's that movie Enemy Mine?
Yeah, I love it.
That would have been a multi-movie deal had they not overspent so much in production, but it was based off a book trilogy. And so I kind of look at that one, the way I look at this now is like, you're getting
Just another thing too. That's also another thing that's in pre-production of possibly getting another reboot on.
What? Oh, I look forward to that day. That's awesome. But so for this, I feel like it's kind of exactly like Enemy Mine in that they took a quarter of one of the first books, and there's all this other rich universe in there that isn't on screen, but now you, the viewer, now that you've seen the books, now that you've seen a version of it that's portrayed in a movie, now you're just like, okay, so in my mind, you know, there's all these other wars that are going on. There's all these other factions and uh, world building that, had it continued, could have been visualized somewhere.
Like they had a lot of like they didn't even like so. What I love
You can
about
call the aliens. That is true. It's like that could have been.
Richard K. Morgan did with the trilogy, with the Takashi trilogy, was like again, the first book is a 1920s noir story. The second book is literally a it's he's in so
You're getting more
people
inside the man, like why he's an animal, why he can't turn the violent side of him off.
like to quickly break down the plot of the second book. It takes place just like season. It does take place 3 years after the first book. He's
Yes,
on this planet called Boar. There are Quellists on this planet who believe in Quell's philosophy, led by a dude named Kemp, which we did see in see a version of him in season two. And then you have him doing the kind of uprising against the protectorate on Sanction 4. Uh, Kovac, at first in the beginning, he leads people to believe that he chose the protectorate because they had better sleeve and finances. If you're going to choose a side, that's the better side.
you're getting all this
Then,
philosophy now, or you're just like the warrior versus the guy in
I
the
mean,
new skin.
it was strictly because the Pretoria had better funds and better sleeves, and if you're going to pick a side who has more resources. He gets sent in. He's the leader. He's part of the wedge. And remember, season two, we see Carrera and the wedge, but in the book, he's actually part of the wedge. He leads a group in to a battle. They end up getting cut to shit.
Right. He's having regrets about signing up for this.
Does but
You can
he's
see
stuck.
why
He
he's a
can't.
selfish little shit after a while, because
But
he's
at the
pretty
same
much trying
time,
to survive now. Yeah.
exactly, because the whole point of survival here, stuck on the planet, you can't leave unless you have a lot of money, you have a way to needle cast off the planet.
And because it's so
Uh,
rooted in mystery, it kind of to the
and like, that's why I love like the second book. There's so much. It's especially when like you find out, he gets approached by this one dude, and they have to break this chick out of a internment camp,
yeah.
all because they're called archaeologues, but they're archaeologists. They found a portal that takes them to this whole another part of the
The way they
galaxy that
describe
has
it is pretty good. Like it stands out in its own right instead of, oh, you know, that's a Cosmos or Stargate thing. It's just go with us
yeah.
here.
And
There's a portal.
what I love about it is like they have to figure out a way to open it to get there. But the thing is, the themes of this book is survival. Also, who he's part of the wedge in the end of the book, which what this again shows how much Kovac is such a savage in the book. He ends up killing the whole wedge group, which is literally like 100.
Yeah. Oh man,
And
and they go to town on both the gory
he
slaughter and the sex scenes in this one, to where you're just like,
oh
but
yeah, yeah.
on
The second,
the we the
how
viewer, we're
sex
plotting the details because it's just needed. It's earned to us by all this suspense.
like going back, like saying like he has a fight with Carrera on the actual Martian ship, and he uses the remains because the Martians, the remains, if you touch them with your skin, they're toxic, and like he uses the dead
Yeah.
Martian to literally kill him, and then he goes back to Earth, and then he literally goes around the whole day uh blowing out all these wedge member stacks. He literally spent the whole day real deathing 100 people just to cover their tracks. But it's but what I love about the themes of the second book is it deals with questioning spirit, spirituality in this time in the future, questioning their place in the universe. Should they even be out there in space? There's so many different themes and so many like existential questions the second book covers. Like that's why like Richard K. Morgan, again, the first book, Norse 1920 story. Second book is literally a survival war zone. The third book is it starts out about revenge. Because remember, we were talking about that first scene in first episode of Alter Carbon, right? Remember when he
Roger. Yeah.
first gets captured, he's with a woman, right? Jaeger pulls out her stack. That character is actually supposed to come back because she is the
Oh,
catalyst.
that's right.
She is the catalyst for what Kovat starts off in.
So the show simplifies some stuff, but you still lose a lot of other details. Yeah.
Things, and they combine some characters like
Three
Jaeger's
characters become one freedom fighter. Yeah.
Jaeger's character was combined with Carrera's character. Jaeger doesn't even exist in the book. My biggest issue was, again, I understand why they did it for the show because there's drama. They Quell and Kovac, they gave them a love story. In the book, uh, Falconer doesn't even come into play until the third book because she's been dead for 300 years. Kovac is only like 150 years old. I mean, he was born after the uprising, or what they call in the book, they call it the unsettlement.
Yep.
But like in the second season with the orbitals, the angel fire, her being able to control it, that's all taking plot points from the third book. But there's the bounty hunter chick Tref in the second season. Her character, even though if you read the book, her character is actually Sylvie.
Yeah, that got a little confusing for me. I'm like, wait a sec, let me go back to my cheat sheet. Okay, it's this character.
It's confusing at first, and when you're reading the story, that's the whole point that Morgan writes. That is very confusing until you get really toward like toward the end of the second act of the book. Like he starts going into detail how you find out that when Kel was killed in the uprising, just like in the show, she was blown up in a helicopter.
Yes.
But she was blown up by angel fire in the book. But the orbitals, they don't just blow shit up; they also copy everything they destroy. And
right.
In the orbitals have been spending hundreds of years of trying to find adequate placement to put the consciousness back into. They put them in a couple of machines, but somehow the bounty hunter chick, she's a decom, and she was doing something at some place, and somehow the orbital transferred Quell's consciousness into her stack. That's where she comes into play in the third book. And I feel like if they had
planned it differently,
instead of skipping the second book, if they would have done like the second book for the second season and like built up on that, because a lot of people had issue with the second season was because there's a lot of convoluted. And you can get second season as a whole, and I still enjoyed it. Even
there was some stuff I had to rewatch, like in the first two episodes. I'm like, wait, did I miss something? No, okay, I'm caught up now.
Episodes, they threw in a whole lot of shit in there, and it got kind of convoluted and stuff like.
And so this is where it's kind of so hard to kind of separate the two, because I get it, like kind of like teams. You want to pick a team, and it's like, well, the show is kind of does it differently with showing how he takes the skins and acquires the memories, as well as acquires the different lifestyle, while the books are kind of more just take your time and then boom, gotcha. Oh, here's another surprise. Whoop, up.
In the books, there is, there's no black and white. Everybody, it's a gray area.
Just who I was described on page 50, and now by page 70, I'm really a badass.
it's like there's no black and white, man. Everything is a gray area. I mean, every character in those books, um, nobody's innocent, but
No,
again, like in real life, we're all guilty of something. Like with him, it's like in the third book, it ends with
he's kind of more honest as opposed to a shameless douche who's like, no, I'm not that way. He's just
yeah,
like,
in the end of the third book, he actually, he does join Quell slash Sylvie. Sylvie and Quell have come to an understanding. They know how to control
he's
the orb.
planting his flag now, saying, okay, I'll help you out at this turf.
Now he just
Don't screw around.
because the plan is to use the orbitals. That and plus, um, Quell had created this genetic weapon that makes people like the Harlans, right? The first family of Harlan's
Yeah,
world.
all the elites, all the spoiled, corrupted guys
Is
having fun time and
bio
responsible for all the problems, but bathing in it at the same time, literally.
Yeah, exactly. She created this weapon I thought was pretty cool that I wish they would have brought into the show. Like she created this bio weapon that through the descendants of her followers, at one like it's they when they like the pheromones that the Harlan bloodline gives off, like
But that's where it's really. I'm glad you brought that up. That is definitely where it's the
when
most original. You're talking about ththese ancient satellites. Everyone's seeking out.
the pheromones like they'll come out and like the descendants and when the people are around any Harlan on the planet, they'll interact with these pheromones. It'll cause a reaction where they'll want to kill the Harlans. And like, they want to use that. I mean, Kovac's actually not happy about it at first. Like,
No, he's pissed. And in the show, it's a weapons grid. Well, here in the book, one Reddit user, I think, put it best: consciousness storage system used by the Martians.
that's basically yeah. That's it's not only are they used to blow shit out the air, but they're used to
It's not
again.
just a Death Star; it's also a storage container.
And like I thought that was just cool how he did that because they're at the end they used
Who else
both
can come up with that?
used actually finally getting the protectorate and the first families to finally actually start doing right by the lower classes of the planet. And also like again the chick he was with in the first scene in season one in the book, she was supposed to come back.
Is the main brains? Yeah.
She eventually gets out of jail and she's part of this like parole furlough program
Mm.
until the first families and Pittsburgh
I
kills them.
felt like some of her persona.
I
You
mean,
can
like,
tell
man,
me if I.
I mean, like, no, like her character after Jaeger real deaths her character, she's just gone. But like there again, like she was like another person that he was close with. When she gets out, she marries this one guy who's part of the program. They have a daughter, but then when the program gets shit canned and economic stability falls in the community, this religious group called the New Revelation comes up, and they talked about the renouncers on the show, but they didn't at all bring in the New Revelation. And I
Yeah.
think if they'd done a third season, we most likely would have saw them. But the New Revelation and their religion, like it's kind of like the neo Catholics in the first season. Like when you die, you can't be spun up again in a new sleeve, but it's still your choice. With these Revelation people, you have no choice if you decide
You
to
don't have a choice. No.
get a new sleeve. They they literally kill you. They take your stack out while you're still alive, and then they put your stack in this box and they sell out to the middle of the sea and they toss it in the
You're
sea.
someone else's property now. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
you're in the sea, like, and they do it
it's
to
pretty
where
sickening. And
I mean they do it in a way where the priest doesn't know the heading, and the guy who's steering the ship, he also doesn't remember the heading of where they go, so you can never find them. So when Kovacs finds out about this, he finds out, finds the husband crying at her grave, finds out the whole story. he goes on this mission. Like he literally goes to the village where they did it at. He kills every single adult there.
Yes.
He
Oh
takes
man.
out stacks, and his old gangster buddy he grew up with. He gives him the stacks, and he puts the stacks in what they call them swamp panthers. They
Something like that. Yeah.
put the stacks in these panthers, and basically have like animal fight rings where they basically these human consciousness are in these panthers fighting to the death. Kind of like the chick in the first season. We actually we found out it was Raylene. She had put a dude's mind in the body of a snake. Um,
Mm.
she said when she took it out to try to put him in a human sleeve.
Yeah, Raylene Kawahara
Yeah,
Hera played by uh what's her name? Deacon Likeman, who I like in everything. She's awesome.
another thing again why I think if they would have went more with the second book, the second scene, because like again, Richard K. Morgan shows these different atmospheres, different type of worlds. Like Earth is very, cyberpunk, society. Section 14 is basically just a war zone. Harlan's world, as we saw in the show, is kind of like a mining, port type of planet.
Yeah, it's basically a futuristic coal mine factory. It's funny how you brought up uh Dan what's her name Raylene because the ambitious governor in season 2, Danica, almost seems like I feel like she's kind of the other side of the coin.
She is. She is
She's
from she
power hungry and saying this is a great idea. It's not a good idea.
but like she's on the criminal side of things, man.
Right. She has totally been a politician way too long, so she's like, let's drill, baby. I'm like, no, let's not.
By Layla Lauren.
Leela Lauren from Power. And
The thing about the series, I think they put too much stock with the love story angle. I think I get it why they did it for
first
the
he's trying to take on Ortega just to get laid. Then he's like, I actually want to protect her. Now I want to actually
like him in the book.
help her.
That's actually they were actually true to form. Me. He did
Yeah.
actually her like 30 years later in the book he still does think about her, but I mean that you know another life, different time. Like in book 2, the main archeolog chick, he has feelings for her to a certain degree. In book 3, his whole motivation begins off because the woman he was in love with, another one, she was brutally killed, her and her kid. And I mean, he literally went around killing every priest of the new revelation he could find. He would, like I
Yeah.
said, and then that, and on him killing some priests gets mixed up with these bounty hunters, which begins the whole quest with the whole questing.
Unlike all these other heroes and anti-heroes we brought up, he takes a while to pick his limits.
Seeing when they re-sleeve his younger version of himself, like in the book, just you know, in the
He's
show,
easy to convince, take advantage of.
in the show, his younger self comes to be on his side. In the book, I mean, his in
He's
the
going
book,
one battle to the next.
in his younger version, when he's double sleeved, his younger version is a fucking savage, and like he hates his younger self, and they damn near fight to the death, and he fucking beats him and is about to kill him, but through all the conversations like with Sylvie and Falconer, and there's the 15-year-old girl who worked with him who gets butchered in the book.
Mm, yeah.
Sister. And and he's back on Harlan, and he is on in the show. His mom dies, and he kills his dad. Something in the book, his dad.
Yeah.
Then his mom eventually remarries, and his sisters grow up. But him becoming an envoy, becoming an envoy, the conditioning changes your personality. Then he becomes a criminal, so he decides to stay away from his family. And that's one of the things his younger version hates, that he just abandoned his family. But
Yep.
he's about to kill his younger version, but he lets him go. He says, if you think you can make better choices than me, go do it. I'll let you go. And then right as the guy is leaving, this chick he's with comes out of nowhere and hits and literally shoots him with a blaster and burns him from chest to head, just burns all that shit away. I thought that shit was hilarious, but he was actually pissed at her in the book that he
Yeah.
because that shows
And
a transition. Like he at the end of the third
he's a
book,
little more playful on screen versus in the book. You're trying to follow where he's going to go next. You know, there's a great line in the second book, where they're saying, "Now, if you repeat that, I'll have you shot. But otherwise, you can do what the fuck you like." Got it? And here he goes. He goes back to having a cigarette while Schneider is watching porn, and he's just like,
yeah,
"I can imagine quite a lot, Schneider." And he shrugs. Whatever. A lot of money then. Are you interested? And he's like, I thought about it, trying to see the angle behind it. Not if it involves changing sides. No. I have nothing against Joshua Kemp personally, but I think he's going to lose. And politics. Schneider waves dismissively.
that's from when he's in the
Book
recovery.
two and sanction for post battle. Yeah.
War at the very beginning after his team is fucking hacked to shit. But we would find out at the end of the book that he was actually sent in the sanction for two fucking he was working for Quellis at that point in time.
Yes.
I mean, he wasn't a Quellis himself, but he was sent there on a paid job by Quellis to fuck with Kemp.
Yep.
Like he reveals that at the very, very end. I'm like, damn, like that's what I love about Richard K. Morgan's writing with this trilogy. Like it's a lot of mystery.
You don't feel like he's making it up as he goes along. He's like, no, I'm gonna really keep fucking around.
Are very intricate. Like, I mean, there are a lot of twists and turns in each three of these books.
It's not about the wordplay so much as just the descriptions, but you feel like he's in love with what he's describing as opposed to how long can I play in the sandbox before I gotta come inside and eat dinner? You know?
I mean, he's really good at again keeping you wondering what's going on.
Unhinged. You're like, what?
He's very good at character development. Every single character in these books, and you see this translated to the show when they stick closer to the source material.
Yep.
You do see every single character is fleshed out. Their personalities are pretty fleshed. The characters let you know who they are, what kind of person they are.
Bingo. He has a pretty cynical yet. I'd love to hear what you think of this quote. I think it's a pretty cool quote myself. Society.
Very pragmatic, but he does still throw mystery and bits of hope in there. Like you think very because
it's
like,
in a grim kind of.
He does give some hope.
So he has this quote here: "Society is, always has been, always will be a structure for the exploitation and oppression of the majority, for systems of political force dictated by an elite, enforced by thugs, uniformed or not, and upheld by a willful ignorance and stupidity on the part of the majority whom the system opposes."
Yeah,
that's a lot to take in, but it's like, yeah,
that's true.
We're a danger to ourselves and others.
Unfortunately, that is true in many cases. We see it through history, through society.
The cake is a lie.
Do I think is it always that bleak? No, it's not always that. I mean, he purposely makes this society, particularly for the lower classes, very, very bleak. But again, there's one.
I mean, we want to see this grim stuff, even with the grim reality we got now, because at least we're getting an interesting narrative, regardless of what the current predicament is.
I mean, I love there's in the third book, there's a scene where he meets this new revelation believer, this guy who's he's out with his wife and kids having a good time, and he's sitting there talking to the guy, and we find out that his parents were two people Tack killed when he went to that village and slaughtered everybody. But as he's talking to the guy, he describes his beliefs, why this or that. He's like, reason why he believes what he believes with the new revelation is because most human beings, they live out their lives just to make enough money to get a new sleeve to extend their lives. They don't think about what's important. They don't think about, having a good time with their
10
family,
years from now.
living for the day and
Yeah.
spending time, like most humans tend to do. Or like,
I mean, it's got to get old after a while, bouncing body to body too. You're like, this
I mean,
sucks.
that's literally what all I mean. And we see that even with the meths, the meths, yeah, they're live for centuries. They're rich. They do, but they're bored and they're miserable. Like
Which
they
is
do.
why they're so crooked, is because they basically want to hide behind all their riches.
They need to do things that interest them. Like they live for so
They're not
long.
interested in being law-abiding citizens.
If you go back and it's like going back to the first book. Going back to the first book, because that's where you really see the meths really in the first book. I mean, book 2 and 3, like the Harlans, for example, you never actually see the Harlans except one in book 3.
Yeah.
But the meths again in the first book and in the first season, that's another good thing that was a good translation from from book to screen, was that you see how neurotic these fucking people are.
Mhm.
Like, they have no interest. They do little things. Whether it's sexual pleasure or psychological pleasure. Just to do.
They're
little
not
things.
even. They're oblivious to how mindless it is. After a while, they're just like, "Yep, just
It's
fuck my
just
brains
a
out."
thing. They like they're just dead. They're technically immortal, but they're dead inside.
Yeah. To where
and
half the time they kind of forget why they're even doing the pleasure in the first place. They're just
they're so fucking neurotic, and just like you can see it even like in.
There was a TV show like that dealt with this in 2016 called Incorporated.
Heard of it, never watched it.
It was on Sci-Fi Channel one season, but it dealt with a lot of stuff where just people are just finding each other to death or stealing from other corporations, and there is no middle ground. But to your earlier point, it just seems like everybody is just so like just going away at their vices to where they forget why it's a vice in the first place, which is why they just do something even more edgy or unethical. They're just
because at the end of the day, like these meth, their vices is all they have. Like the whole dinner scene,
it's like playing a video game. Oh, it's too easy now. So now I'd rather go and kill someone for a video game or something. It's just like, really? My God.
Well, you're just a sick motherfucker. Like yeah, but yeah, just like them though. Like this again, they're
This is what they are. They're just very sick. They don't realize they're sick, and the ones who are don't care. And you're like, oh my word, no.
Yeah, it's like I
They
remember
can't fess up to what they are. It's just like, well,
where both the meth, the husband and wife get arrested. It's like he's like we destroyed each other. He's like, yeah, because you fucking they hid things from each other, and some of the stupidest things are just that led to this whole fucking issue.
yeah.
Yeah, you did fucking kill yourself.
Stupid games they're playing, and it's just like
first book is again Altered Carbon, Broken Angels, and Woken Furies. They're good trilogy. Good trilogy. Check it out.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Welcome to the Better Call Daddy Show, the #1 podcast where we admit, no matter what happens, Daddy has the advice we need to fix our problems.
Introducing my dad, Mr. Wayne Friedman.
That was good. It would be nice if you could also sing a song.
What would the song be?
You love Paris in the springtime. I just made up some words to it.
I love Rena in the springtime. I love Rena in the fall.
That's right. That's good enough.
What I do is interview people of interest, share it with my dad, and get my dad's advice. My dad is my hero. Nobody's got my daddy.
Oh boy, let's go to Grandpa.
You like to be a little rebel. I tried to rein you in. I have a daughter named Rena that acts just like I did. She's got a son that is not only just like me, but it's just like her.
I'm your host, Rena Friedman Watts.
Invite your friends, subscribe, and I'm excited to take this journey with you.
Let's dive in.
She was teasing this guy with this sword, and she accidentally cut his dick.
Oh my God, I'm dying.
And then he started to enjoy it.
I started going down the phone sex rabbit hole. You've got the wankers, and they jerk off in 5 seconds, and then they're done because A, they don't want to spend money, and B, they're quick.
My stepfather had mania. If I'm yelling at one of my kids, that fear, that rigid fear.
Mom even said to me, I hope you have a kid just like you.
There are lots of people that are being bought and sold right now for profit.
If you think you're going to kill yourself, shut up and kill yourself. If you're not going to kill yourself, then shut up, smarten up, and it's all on you. The bullshit has to end.
Wow.
When I was 11 years old, I was raped and molested over the course of a year.
What Jeffrey Epstein had was a sickness inside of him.
I am Evan Castrilli Carmichael. I could do anything that I believe that I can.
I'm so excited too. Let's go.
Next on Better Call Daddy with my mom and my grandpa.
Stay tuned.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up